Okay, and greetings everyone. Keith here. Hoping everyone's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. I want to remind everybody, please hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And there's a PayPal link down below in the details section for anybody who wants to share some love. And the StreamYard link is down there for anybody that wants to join the panel. And we're going to get right into it this morning. I did a video yesterday about finance. And there's a couple things I left out that I wanted to finish up with today. Just kind of seal that up and give you a conclusion of what we're talking about with finance. As well as I want to bring a term loan and one of the codes from the U.S. code as it relates to finance and loans. So let's take a look at the definition of finance. And this is just straight from Google. It's definitions from Oxford Languages. It says finance. And when we get started, it says the management of large amounts of money, especially by governments or large companies, financial affairs, money matters, pecuniary matters, fiscal matters, economics, money management. It's one of the ones we went over in finance etymology. It's the management of money, research of money, commerce, business, investment, banking, accounting. Didn't want to click on that, but accounting. What is your accounting of the events? So we see in a sense like that, the accounting is the data elements. Similar, monetary support for an enterprise, funds, assets, money, capital, resources, cash, wealth, reserves, wherewithal, like accounting. What is your wherewithal of the events? Can you record or can you remember the events accurately? Can you account for your time? Revenue, income, stock, funding, backing, subsidy, sponsorship, financial condition or state, cash flow, budget. The monetary resources and affairs of a country, organization, or person. Provide funding for a person or enterprise. Fund, pay for, back, capitalize, provide capital or security for, endow, subsidize, invest in, underwrite as in a insurance underwriting, guarantee, furnish credit for, sponsor, act as a guarantor of, accounting, act as a guarantor of. You guarantee the facts noted are true and correct. Support, foot the bill for, pick up the tab for, bankroll. Origin. This is something we didn't see in the etymology, and this is why I wanted to bring it up. Fine, finer, from Old French. Make an end. Make an end. Settle a debt. Settle a debt. From finer, make an end, settle a debt. End. The original sense was payment of a debt, compensation, or ransom. Later, taxation, revenue. Current senses date from the 18th century and reflect sense development in French. So we see that finance, when you go to like a car lot and they give you the document and you fill out the financial part, that's settling a debt. That's settling a debt. You're there to settle a debt. What is the simple meaning of finance? This is the one that says the management of money and includes activities such as investing, borrowing, lending, budgeting, saving, and forecasting. There are three types of finance: personal, corporate, and public or government. Okay? So we see here it says it's an end or a settlement of a debt, not the beginning. So let's take a look at loan. Loan might surprise you. Loan, from Old Germanic, Old Norse. Land, Dutch, leen, German, lean, English, lend. This is the one that might strike you in etymology. Excuse me. So we see loan as a noun. And it says, late 12th century, that which is lent or owning, a thing furnished on a promise of future return. Also, a gift or reward from a superior. A gift of God. A gift of God. Think about that. A loan being a gift of God. Does that give you a different perspective? I'm going to read something here I wrote a number of years ago. Let me get to it here. When it comes to a gift of God, it's like I repeat all the time, every breath is an act of God. It's a gift from God. It was something I wrote December 27th of 2016. Author, me. His words. Words and meanings mixing and mingling in my mind, like a book yet to be written that has no bind. Blank white pages with no words to be read. Confusion, unable to assemble them in my head. Words of experience, wisdom, and compassion of life. Joy, happiness, anger, resentment, sadness, and strife. Striving to string them together with vigor and passion. Then I see they are already tailored in their own fashion. Written by someone else with a message to be sent. All these words are not mine. They are not mine. They are lent. The chapters yet to be written are only a dream, still to be sewn together with a unique stitch and seam. Once threaded, only then can the story be told. No augmentations, only truth and honesty will they hold. I read on, hoping it will soon come to its end. I realize the book is my life I have yet to mend. So I sit back, relax, and take in a deep breath. I learn that patience in life is not to rush death. Knowing now I must give up control and relinquish command, the words and meanings I no longer lust to understand. For upon my reflection, I come to know why this is. The book by my hand is not penned, but by his. Everything I say is a gift to God. Everything I do that takes a breath is a gift of God. My yea is my yea, my nay is my nay, because they come from him. Loan, from Proto-Germanic Lakewinis. I have no idea. I'm sure I tore that one up. Source, old, or also of Old Frisian, len, thing lent. Loan, fief, as in fiefdom. Fief, feudal tenure. Originally, to let have. To let have. To leave, to someone. To leave. The Norse word also is cognate with Old English lane, gift. Gift, which according to OED did not survive into Middle English, but is derived verb lenen is the source of lend. From early 15th century, a contribution to public finances. A contribution to public finances. See, the public cannot create its own. They can only accept a gift. Ostensibly voluntary, but often coerced, sometimes repaid. Remember, we talk about repayment. What is the repayment if it's already paid? Who paid what and how was it done? Remember the purchase order? The purchase order is issued by the buyer to a seller. So what are you doing at that car lot? What is it you're actually selling according to those terms? As a verb, loan is attested from 1540s, perhaps earlier, and formerly was current, but it has now been supplanted in England by lend, though it survives in American English. Slang loan shark, first attested 1900. Lend, grant, temporary possession of. To grant, temporarily, lease out, make loans, lend money at interest. Gift, to lend an ear is to listen. Wage, wisdom. Remember the accounting. Finances and accounting. It's dependent upon your wisdom, your preposition, a setting before. You got that breath from God. No one else. The next one is that commercial or the U.S. Code. U.S. Code Title 49, Transportation, is where you find judicial review. over those monetary elements, over the finances. That's what a judicial review is. It's going to review the accounting to make sure the financing is truly correctly stated. Now, this government and many of the people that support it seems to believe that it's the government that provides, when again, it is not the government, it is the people. The government would not be there if not for the people, and they only have their subsistence based on the gross domestic product of the sweat equity labor, again, of the people. They can't just magically make a value system and say it's theirs. It has to come from something else. It has to be a source other than fiction. Filing and venue. Except for an order related to a foreign air carrier, subject to disapproval by the President under Section 41307 or 41509F of this title, a person disclosing a substantial interest in an order issued by the Secretary of Transportation or the Administrator of the Transportation Security Administration with respect to security duties, and power is designated to be carried out by the Administrator of the Transportation Security Administration or the Administrator of the Federal Aviation Administration with respect to aviation duties. See, they're always talking about duties, which are military, and power is designated to be carried out by the Administrator of the Federal Aviation Administration, in whole or in part under this part, Part B, or subsection I or S, L or S of Section 114, may apply for review of the order by filing a petition for review in the United States Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit or in the Court of Appeals of the United States for the circuit in which the person resides or has its principal place of business. The petition must be filed no later than 60 days after the order is issued, and the court may allow the petition to be filed after the 60th day only if there are reasonable grounds for not filing by the 60th day. So if the reasonable ground is that you did not know, because you did not know that somebody was presuming that you were subject to something that you're not. Judicial procedures. When a petition is filed under subsection A of this section, the clerk of court immediately shall send a copy of the petition to the Secretary, Administrator of the Transportation Security Administration, or Administrator of the Federal Aviation Administration as appropriate. When a petition is filed under subsection A of this section for a judicial review, the clerk of court is immediately supposed to send a copy of the petition to the Secretary, the Administrator of the Transportation Security Administration, or the Administrator of the Federal Aviation Administration. The Secretary, Administrator of Transportation Security Administration, or Administrator of the Federal Aviation Administration shall file with the court a record of any proceeding in which the order was issued, as provided in Title 28 of Section 2112 of Title 28. Authority of court. When the petition is sent to the Secretary, Administrator of the Transportation Security Administration, or the Administrator of the Federal Aviation Administration, the court has exclusive jurisdiction to affirm, amend, modify, or set aside any part of the order and may order the Secretary, Administrator of the Transportation Security Administration, or Administrator of the Federal Aviation Administration to conduct further proceedings. Where else do you hear of exclusive jurisdiction? That's the federal zone. That's the Postal Service. The post office is the one with exclusive jurisdiction. And they have to have an interlocal agreement with the court or any other agency that they intend to transfer said exclusive jurisdiction to. This here is showing you that these courts, the court clerk is granted a interlocal agreement for exclusive jurisdiction to make these determinations. However, if they don't know this, then they're only doing what their boss is telling them. And this is why it's so important to do your research. After reasonable notice to the Secretary, Administrator of the Transportation Security Administration, or the Administrator of the Federal Aviation Administration, the court may grant interim relief by staying the order or taking other appropriate action when good cause for its actions exists. Findings of fact by Secretary, Administrator of the Transportation Security Administration, or Administrator of the Federal Aviation Administration, if supported by substantial evidence, are conclusive. That's not the judge. Do you understand what's being said here? The judge is not the one that's supposed to be making these decisions. The judge is the one that is only giving an opinion, and most likely none of this stuff is going before this administration like it's supposed to. And it is a transportation administration. Requirement of prior objection. In reviewing an order under this section, the court may consider an objection to an order of the Secretary, Administrator of the Transportation Security Administration, or Administrator of the Federal Aviation Administration only if the objection was made in the proceeding conducted by the Secretary, Administrator of the Transportation Security Administration, or Administrator of the Federal Aviation Administration, or if there was a reasonable ground for not making the objection in the proceeding. So if there was a presumption placed on the record that it supposedly applies to everybody, and there was no meeting, I never had such a meeting. Supreme Court review. A decision by a court under this section may be reviewed only by the Supreme Court under Section 1254 of Title 28. A decision by a court under this section may be reviewed only by the Supreme Court. Only by the Supreme Court. Judicial reviews are had by the Supreme Court. Let's take a look at Title 28, Section 2112, where it says that's record on review and enforcement of agency orders. If you're not a part of the agency, and we're talking about the transportation, if you're not part of that agency, then you're not subject to their transportation agency policies. They, again, are not law. Okay, I'm not going to read these, but I just wanted to point out what they're about. Again, a lot of times these titles will tell you everything you need to know. And it says record on review and enforcement of agency orders. Again, if you're not part of the agency, it does not apply to you. And that's what these codes, rules, and regulations are. They are not law, folks. They are agency policies. They are policies that these officers and agents are supposed to follow. You know, the residents. No person shall reside within the zone except federal, state, or municipal officers or agents whose resident presence is deemed necessary by the board. And in case you didn't understand, that is the dual citizenship, because the federal, state, or municipal officer or agent is not a foreign citizen. It is a United States citizen by presumption of the record. Then you have to reside within one of the states for a certain period of time before you can fulfill a public office. Yet here you are, and that's according to the Constitution, yet here you are presuming that that term applies to you, and therefore your official actions of the performance of functions of public office are taken as such, as if though you are an agent. You're not. Let's take a look at the next one. That last one that they mentioned at the very last part of that last code was 28 U.S. Code 1254, Courts of Appeals, Certiorari, Certified Questions. I mentioned this yesterday as far as questions are concerned. I really think it's pertinent that people learn how to ask very good questions. Cases in courts of appeal may be reviewed by the Supreme Court by the following methods: by writ of certiorari granted upon the petition of any party to any civil or criminal case, before or after rendition of a judgment or decree. Again, they're not operating on law. They're operating on opinions. Those case law are opinions. If they were operating on law, you'd be going to the legislature to point out the letter of the law and what it means. The intent. These guys don't want you to go there. By certification at any time by a court of appeals of any question of law in any civil or criminal case as to which instructions are desired, and upon such certification the Supreme Court may give binding instructions or require the entire record to be sent up for decision of the entire matter in controversy. Greetings, John. How you doing today?
Doing good, Keith.
Good. Good. We're coming up. We're coming up to the end here, but I'm glad you came up, because this last part is the part that we're talking about, folks. When you find an error in a record, like I've said many times in the past, it's a matter of pulling up the whole record to correct the whole record. So you only need to point out one error, and it brings out a forensic audit of the entire record. Go ahead, John.
Well, you just mentioned judicial review. Who started that process? John Marshall. It's not an accident for his last name.
Really? Tell us more. That's something I've not looked into.
Well, We have school crossing guards. We have tree wardens, loan officers. We have recruits. We have battalion chiefs, Keith. It's all military. Social Security is run by a commissioner.
Oh,
You're
yeah, I
on
get you.
commission. You're on
Yep.
commission if you make a sale, Keith. I know because I
Yes,
used to sell furniture.
yes,
It's
I
all
was in
military.
sales. Yep, I was in sales and marketing myself, and that's the thing. It works on a commission and not a per diem.
Right. But it really, I think they're telling us what they're doing by words and by names.
Absolutely, absolutely. Greetings, Russ.
Greetings. To further that, what I brought up the other day on that DA, what was it, DA 1687 form? If you look at that, I believe that comes from the universities, and it actually talks about rank and all of that stuff, and their last
Yep.
name, then first and middle. So, it all ties together.
Yeah, and this is like I said, this education system, not just the public grade schools and intermediates and high schools, but the colleges. They're all formed upon the what was it the French military schools back in the Napoleonic days. Remember the Louisiana Purchase and all that. He Napoleon sold off that parcel of land because he needed to fund his war. Well, that war is the basic foundation of what we have today for a public education system in America, all the way up and down the line. And that's why I said, this whole system is designed to raise up children in war, to train them in war uh, positions. None of it is based on scriptural teachings, of course. Um, and if you really want to bring your children up in that spiritual sense, I urge you to get them out of those public schools and understand what this entire monetary system is. It's all about military fiat and following orders.
Yep. New World Order.
And those orders aren't coming from the Most High in good works.
No, and that's why when we see things like this, what we're seeing here today, the order, the court's order, this and that, judicial orders. What is an order? And if it's not under the Word of God, can you put the Word of God into it to keep and keep it valid? Most certainly. Most certainly. It's just a matter of corrections. That's all I'm trying to help people comprehend, is that there are certain things put out there that people place up as orders, and they're not beneficial. So when you put the benefit part in there, you can either you can either put let's put it this way, you can either put the terms in there that makes it beneficial for you, or put the terms, explain the terms that make it an impossibility or an inconsistency with your capacity. If they can make it consistent and valuable and equally considerable, then you can move forward. But if that inconsistency is not, you're not able to overcome it, then it becomes an impossibility. And they can't force you to do things that are impossible. This is why they cannot force an idiot in a courtroom to testify, because he's an idiot. They
Yeah,
can't charge him.
they assume we are mental though going in. We just have to say we're not, right, Keith?
Right. When we go into these situations, and the first thing they ask you is, Keith Little. You hear that name and you stand up, and they say, "Is that your name?" How are you going to answer that? That's the first thing about questioning, that you have to realize. To be competent in order to answer the question, you have to understand what's being asked. This is the first part of developing how to a process of learning how to ask questions yourself. We've not been taught that. We've been taught to remember the things that we read and see, and that that's the order of things, and that we can't deny that. And that's false. We have the ability to create, and it's like, let me pull something up for everybody.
How I simplify it for myself is that everything that we place upon this written record that we sign, if God's not in that record in good works and you sign it, that's where that G becomes silent and it's a sin.
Yeah, absolutely. Can anybody read that? Anybody know how to read that?
Let me try to blow it up. I could just see patent.
Yeah, that's the only thing you can really read is patent, because all the rest is all in my script. This is my invention. And it says, public notice to all people and peoples. The information contained in this book is absolute property of El-Hotep Second and may not be reproduced or copied in any manner under any circumstances without express permission from Keith Orland, Minaj Conrad E. Little. Da 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 da. Guess what? There's the codex key right there. It gives you everything you need to know. It shows the conversion. This means A. This means B. This means C. So all you got to do is go through and find those individual letters and use the codex. That's all we're doing with this English language. We're going back to the origins to find out what everything means.
Yep. And we could do the same to them, especially in court.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's why I say, when you get these agreements and stuff, put your own definitions to them. Define them yourself. Define. What was that? Finance? Finance was fine. 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 Finer. Fine. So you have to define what they're putting before you. You have to take away the fact that they believe they're loaning to you. That's not what's happening. They can't loan to you. Only you can give a gift of God. A fiction cannot do that in any capacity.
Yeah, well, they're good actors. They got court buildings. They got big bank buildings. They got insignia, certificates. They wear black robes. They're doing a good job.
Yeah, they don't understand. Every last bit of that comes off the backs of the people. See, the administrative courts, the judicial elements of this government, things like that, those aren't part of the gross domestic product. Those are dependent upon the gross domestic product. See, the government doesn't exist without the people. They are dependent upon the people. The public education system is not part of the gross domestic product. Yet that's where you're putting all of your investment in to raise your children up, to learn how to live in this society so they can put forth a part of that gross domestic product. Don't you think it'd be much better to teach them the principle about that very gross domestic product, where it comes from and how much it's worth on an individual basis? They're teaching our children in these schools that you have to line up and be like the guy in front of you, and the guy that's got his dick in your ass, he's going to be just like you. pathetic.
Yep.
Goldsmith down here says, look up civil in Black's Law, first edition. It will tell you it's military, the opposite of ecclesiastical. Absolutely. That's why I like my book here. Let me pull it out. Get my screen up here again. The practice of the spiritual or ecclesiastical courts, to which is added a brief discourse of the structure and manner of forming the libel or declaration. Notice the date, 1685. The very establishment of this nation and the postal service. And like I said, and they put it in there directly from Marine Corps headquarters, that the post offices are staffed by inland Marine officers, or excuse me, there's the postal officers staff inland Marine installations, and therefore technically they are military officers, and the post office is a military location. Needful places and buildings, they're all military. The roads, they're military. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 7, postal roads. Those are military. These roads that we have nowadays are specifically designed after the Autobahn from Germany so that they can carry heavy equipment from one point in the nation all the way to the other if it comes to war. They can carry their heavy armaments across the land if need be. That's what these roads are for. They're not for you. They're not for your intents and purposes. The intents and purposes are for war, military, in every sense.
Yeah, and they put them underwater too, Keith. That's why cops are called road pirates, and why they wear navy blue. You know, and
Well, yeah, that's
and they're shipping on the road, not cargo. It's all water out there.
yep, and they're all given names and numbers for a reason. They're operating vessels that have to be logged into records. Every last bit of this entire system is military, and it's instituted in your childhood through your mom and dad, who were also indoctrinated. And I urge everybody to come out of her. Jeremiah 51:31. Let me pull that up real quick before we head out. Remember, I have this little saying, I speak boldly as I ought to. And as we were just talking about these postal roads and post offices and all these needful places and buildings, we have Jeremiah 51:31. One post. What is a post? If it says one post shall run, can a post run? In your definition of post, does a post run or does it stand in one place? Do you see the delusion we've been living under? When you make a post, is that a vehicle? Is that going to transport from one place to another? If I type on this keyboard into a social site and I make an article of my own creation, and then I hit that button down at the bottom that says post, can somebody around the world read that? Did it travel around the world in doing so? Or is it in one spot? One post shall run to meet another, and one messenger to meet another, to shew the king of Babylon that his city is taken at one end. And so the reason I discuss that, let me show you that. One post shall run to meet another, and one messenger to meet another, to shew the king of Babylon that his city is taken at one end. So when you become old enough to post, and you believe that you're posting things in truth, this is what it's talking about. It's saying that you no longer babble. When you learn how to quit babbling, you'll learn how to post things that are truthful and cannot be removed. Matter of fact, just yesterday on Facebook, from 6 months ago, August 12th, I did a short video with Elvis and Mr. Postman and Johnny Rivers, secret agent man. And Facebook tried to make a copyright claim despite the fact that I disclaimed the copyright and gave credit where it was supposed to. And then finally, 6 months later, they finally came back with their decision saying that the record company released their copyright claim. No, it wasn't them that had a copyright claim on it that was released. It was Facebook that made the claim for them, and then Facebook released that claim. See, I posted it, and I posted it accurately as I was supposed to. And so when you're able to clear up the babble, that's when you're actually posting things of value. And with that, folks, we are done for this morning's video, the stream. And just wondering what you might think about all these loans and financing that are gifts of God.
I think we've all been robbed, cheated.
Well, I think we've all been idiots, that's for sure. And again, you know, granted, mom and dad were indoctrinated too, but again, there's the point in time where you got to just wake up. You're full-grown boys and girls. It's time to do your research and get into it and figure out your own problems and quit being living in this society of convenience where we can just hand our problems over to somebody else in faith and think that they're going to solve the problem when they don't know they're indoctrinated as well.
I think our egos are our biggest detriment.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, that's one of the hardest part about it is, you know, being 50 years old and thinking, oh my God, how stupid have I been all my life?
I was just going to say, I'm over 50, and I think our ignorance is our biggest thing.
It was a hard pill to swallow, for sure.
Yes, and it still is. You know, like I said, when I started doing this research about 7 years ago, you know, really digging into it, I've done my other minor research a little bit here and there. But when I finally said, fuck it, I'm done with this system until I figure it out, and I quit all the banking and everything and started doing this research heavy, at first, I was calm and complacent and comfortable in doing the videos. And you can go back and look at the beginnings and see that I was calm and peaceful. But as time went on and I learned more and more, the more that anger and passion came out and the more you could see it in my videos. And now I'm getting to the point where I recognize that and I've got to quit that and I want to get back to that calm demeanor again. So I hope you'll see that. But in the meantime, you know, it truly is. It's very disturbing. So disturbing that it's, you know, it shows in my videos how upset I get just from learning it. Just from learning all the shit that was so not taught. You know, we think we're being taught this stuff in school and we're not. We're being taught to remember certain things and that's it. Go ahead, John.
Understand, brother. I share the anger with you. Of course, I never blow up, but I'm very upset, all right, that we are just totally, like, blocked from even thinking for ourselves, you know?
Absolutely, and
it's as you said, that one lie can destroy every truth ever told.
Yep. And I urge everybody, um, despite any kind of anger or anything that you think about yourself, try to displace that and think about tomorrow's generation. They may not be your children, but I think we have to understand that we're all children of the Most High, and that is the true aspect. That's why I say your children are my children are your children, because they're truly not ours. We are all His.
Ah, that sounds so good. I
Let's
wish
take
we
a
could understand that deeper, you know?
well. Yeah, it's going back to that very thing about the gift, the loan. Our children are loans to us as an education on our part to learn how to be parents. We don't know how to be a parent until we have children. Sure, somebody can tell you to remember this or remember that, but you're not going to have the actual experience firsthand, which is totally different. I assure you, for folks out there that do not have children, it is a totally different experience than what you've been taught.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Let me pull this Galatians up. Galatians 4. One through 7. Now I say, let me put it on screen, I guess. Galatians 4, 1 through 7. Now I say that the heir, as long as he is a child, differeth nothing from a servant, though he be Lord of all, but is under tutors and governors until the time appointed of the Father. Even so we, when we were children, were in bondage under the elements of the world. This is the indoctrination that we're told to come out of. But when the fullness of the time was come, God sent forth his Son, made of a woman, made under the law, to redeem them that were under the law, that we might receive the adoption of sons. I've been saying all along, and this is one of the verses that points this out, that it's all about adoption.
In Galatians, what is it, 5:4, where it says, "Ye who justify yourselves by laws have fallen from grace."
Yep. And because ye are sons, God hath sent forth the Spirit of his Son into your hearts. That's what was loaned. That's what the gift was. Before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee. And that's when he sent the Spirit of his Son into your heart. He wrote that word into his heart, or into your heart, crying, Abba, Father. Wherefore thou art no more a servant, but a son, and if a son, then an heir of God through Christ. Excellent verse.
Good. Thanks for sharing that.
Yes, Mark, we are guardians of the children of the Most High. That includes each other, because as an adult, I am still my mom and dad's child. As an adult, my mom and dad are still God's children. This is why I say I don't hate my parents. I don't like them very much, but I love them. I don't have much faith that they'll come out of their cognitive dissonance. They're in their 70s. Dad's going on 80. But I have to do my job. And there's not much I can do to correct their life. I mean, they live a good life. It's just that what's in their heart is not true and correct, according to my opinion. They did many good things for me in my life. And again, because they were indoctrinated, I was too indoctrinated. And that's the only problem I see in my life now. They see it as a problem, but they don't see the problem. They see me as the problem. Big difference. So anyway, we're done for today. I'll be back tonight with another one. Don't know exactly what yet, but I'll think of something and I'll get it posted here soon. In the meantime, what do you got on the way out, guys?
Oh, and like I always do, be the change you wish to see, people. Keith, always appreciative, brother. Much love, you know that. Many blessings, everyone.
Thank you much, Russ. Always appreciate you being here.
Absolutely.
Yep, it's not an easy road, Keith, but it's worth the travel. It really is.
Absolutely. It's what makes you feel alive, folks. I don't know if your cushy lifestyle is detrimental to you or not, but in my opinion, it is. If you don't get out there and experience things, you don't know what life is truly about. And if you think life is all about the comfort and convenience, I think that you're missing a lot of what is truly natural beauty in this world. Like I said, the English language itself is fucking amazingly beautiful once you understand it. But the real world out there, there's so much more. So with that, we're out. And I'm going to leave out with my usual as well, folks. You know I love you, but I don't give a rat's ass whether you love me back. So may God bless you and have a good day.